What if I told you that starting in 2028, some of the biggest names in golf could be relegated, kicked down a tier, just like a football team gets relegated out of the Premier League? No signature events, no $20 million purses, playing instead in what one of the world's top players openly called glorified Korn Ferry events. Sounds insane, right? But this isn't a rumor. This is the real, actively developing plan from the PGA Tour's new commissioner. And right now, a growing number of the tour's biggest stars are pushing back, hard. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what's coming, who's furious about it, and why professional golf might look completely unrecognizable in just 2 years. Let's get into it. Welcome back to PGA Tour Reports, the channel that breaks down every major story shaping the world of golf. If you want to stay ahead of every headline before it blows up everywhere else, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on, because today's story is one of the biggest structural shakeups the PGA Tour has seen in decades. So let's start from the beginning. Brian Rolapp, the PGA Tour's new CEO, and now officially its commissioner, replacing Jay Monahan starting January 1st, came into this job with a very different background than golf people are used to. He spent years at the NFL as its chief media and business officer under Commissioner Roger Goodell. And when Rolapp took over the PGA Tour, he made it clear from day one. This was not going to be business as usual. He described his approach as working with a blank sheet of paper. Back in March, at a press conference held in front of over 1,100 people at the PGA Tour's brand new global headquarters, Rolapp laid out a 6-theme plan for the future of the tour. And the headline of that plan, the part that has since dominated every golf headline for months, is a complete overhaul of the competitive structure. Rolapp wants to split the PGA Tour into 2 separate tiers, with a promotion and relegation system built in, much like you'd see in European football leagues. Here's how it would work. The top tier, which insiders are calling Track 1, or officially the Championship Series, would include somewhere between 21 and 26 elite events per year. That includes the 4 major championships, the Players' Championship, and the postseason playoff events. Field sizes would grow to 120, even up to 130 players, and this is a big change. Cuts would return to nearly every event. Right now, most $20 million signature events have small, 72 to 80 player fields with no cut at all, meaning players are essentially guaranteed a paycheck just for showing up. Rolapp has been blunt about why that needs to change. He said the competitive meritocracy that makes golf great is something the tour has lost, and he wants it back. Then there's Track 2, officially named the Challenger Series. This would function as the pathway tier, around 20 tournaments where players compete to earn one of roughly 30 promotion spots up to the top tier. Rolapp insists this isn't meant to be a glorified minor league. He stated publicly that Challenger Series events need to, quote, feel like PGA Tour events, with recognizable venues and healthy purses and current PGA Tour players in the field. He's even floated the idea of immediate in-season promotion after a player wins twice on the Challenger Series in a single year. Now here's where the controversy really kicks in. Not everyone is buying what Rolapp is selling. Rory McIlroy, one of the biggest voices in the sport, didn't hold back. Just days before Rolapp's big announcement, McIlroy referred to the proposed second tier as, in his words, glorified Korn Ferry events. That's a pretty brutal comparison, essentially saying Track 2 is just a slightly dressed-up version of golf's current developmental tour. Rolapp actually addressed this directly during his press conference, insisting that both tracks are still, quote, one tour, 2 compelling series of events. But the fact that the tour's biggest star felt the need to publicly push back before the plan even launched tells you how much anxiety this proposal is creating in the locker room. Jack Nicklaus, arguably the most respected voice in golf history, also raised red flags. The Golden Bear said he wanted to sit down directly with Rolapp to talk through his concerns, specifically about tournaments being bunched too closely together. I hate to see tournaments bunched too much together with too many big tournaments too close together, Nicklaus said. That's a problem, I think, and I think that's going to be a problem for the tour in the future. And it's not just legends and superstars raising concerns. Rank-and-file tour players are nervous too. Nick Taylor was asked directly how he'd feel if he were barred from playing in his own National Open because it wasn't designated a Track 1 event. Multiple players have quietly voiced frustration that they might be told which events they're even allowed to play in. A level of control the tour has never really had before. One unnamed player was blunt in a recent interview, simply saying about the potential restrictions, "That would suck." There's also uncertainty rippling beyond the PGA Tour itself. Flushing at Golf reported that numerous DP World Tour professionals have expressed serious concern, since under this new global pathway structure, the DP World Tour would essentially be relegated to a 3rd tier in the world golf hierarchy, a massive demotion in status for what has traditionally been considered Europe's premier tour. Even the concept of PGA Tour champions, the over 50 senior tour, could get shaken up in all of this. Sources say the Player Advisory Council has discussed potentially lowering the eligibility age for the senior tour, which could completely change who's playing against who. Golf analyst Ryan Lavner reacted to that possibility with visible disbelief, pointing out that a player like Adam Scott, who was about to play his 100th consecutive major championship, could suddenly find himself competing against 60-something legends like Bernhard Langer. That's crazy to me, Lavner said. So how many players are actually pushing back right now? While the PGA Tour has publicly stated that a majority of players voted in favor of moving forward with the framework, sources close to the Player Advisory Council say there's a smaller but vocal group, reportedly around 11 top-tier players, who have raised direct, specific concerns with Rolapp's office. Their worries range from being locked out of hometown events, to losing control over their own schedules, to the fear of essentially being punished for a single bad season and dropped into a lower tier with reduced prize money and diminished exposure. Maverick McNeely, who sat on the Future Competition Committee and has been directly involved in negotiations, said the single biggest issue players have raised privately with Rolapp isn't even the tier system itself. It's the lack of rest between events and losing the ability to build their own schedules the way they want to. Meanwhile, PAC chairman Lucas Glover has publicly defended the changes, saying, "Change is always difficult to get our arms around, but I think we're heading in the right direction." To his credit, Rolapp has repeatedly emphasized that nothing is finalized yet. "I can't emphasize this enough. Nothing has been finalized," he said. "We are still doing our work and gathering input from our players, our partners, and other key stakeholders." He's also acknowledged that the smaller details, like whether promotion can happen mid-season or which events specifically get Track 1 status, are still being worked out. Rolapp has said the Tour's policy board will need to formally approve the changes before anything becomes official, with a target implementation date of 2028, though some smaller elements could roll out as early as 2027. There's also a bigger business reason behind all of this. Rolapp has been upfront that this restructuring is about strengthening the Tour's position in future media rights negotiations. Current deals with CBS and ABC or ESPN run through 2031, while NBC and USA Sports have rights through 2033. And Rolapp wants a product that's more valuable and more marketable when those negotiations eventually happen. In his words, the demand for live sports programming is still at an all-time high, but not all live sports programming is the same. Translation: the Tour needs a sharper, more dramatic product to compete with everything else fighting for attention and rights fees. So where does this leave us? On one hand, you have a bold, ambitious new commissioner trying to modernize a sport that many agree has grown stale, with too many meaningless no-cut events and not enough true competitive stakes. On the other hand, you have a locker room full of players, from legends like Jack Nicklaus to superstars like Rory McIlroy to journeymen just trying to keep their card, all nervous about losing control over their own careers and livelihoods. This is shaping up to be one of the most contentious power struggles in modern golf history, and we are still nearly 2 years away from any of it actually taking effect. So I want to know what you think. Is Brian Rolapp's two-tier system exactly what golf needs to stay competitive in today's sports landscape? Or is this promotion and relegation experiment going to blow up in the Tour's face and alienate the very players who make the sport worth watching? Drop your take in the comments. I genuinely want to hear where you stand on this one. If this video helped, you understand exactly what's happening behind the scenes at the PGA Tour. Do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you're not already subscribed to PGA Tour Reports, now's the perfect time, because this story is nowhere near finished, and we'll be covering every twist as it develops. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.